Good evening and welcome to AZ Votes Candidates in Conversation, a special edition of Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Tonight, we continue our Candidates in Conversation with a discussion between candidates running in the Republican primary for Arizona State Treasurer. The State Treasurer is considered Arizona's chief banking and investment officer, providing, among other things, financial oversight as chair of the State Board of Investment. Tonight's Candidates in Conversation is not a formal debate. It's an open exchange of ideas, an opportunity for give and take between candidates for one of the state's most important offices. As such, interjections, the occasional interruption, they are allowed, provided that all sides get a fair shake, and we will do our best to see that that happens. Joining us now for tonight's discussion, in alphabetical order, Catherine Haley, a small business owner and president of the State Board of Education, and Elijah Norton, an Arizona businessman and former treasurer of the Arizona Republican Party. Candidates, good to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining us. Catherine, we're going to start with you. What qualifies you for this position?
Well, thank you for the question, Ted, and thank you to those that are joining us. I know you all care deeply about our state and our future, and I'm grateful to be here. I am a small business owner. We maintain balance sheets. We have to make sure that we balance our checkbook every day. We need to make sure we're ready to pay our bills. In addition to that, I have government experience, both in Capitol Hill overseeing budgets, but also advancing policy, the navigation of implementing policy. I've also spent quite a few years helping organizations invest in their local communities as well. So understanding strong governance structure, excellent leadership and talent. But ultimately, I believe as a lifelong conservative, as someone who has spent her life in public service, I believe I have the qualifications, the experience to serve our state as the next treasurer. So thank you.
All right. Elijah, your qualifications for this state position.
Well, I think my qualifications speak for themselves. I own a global insurance organization. Very lucky. I started when I was 21 years old, and I grew it into a global company that generates over $400 million a year in revenue. It's an insurance organization, and that uniquely qualifies me because I have to manage over $100 million of claims reserves that I have to invest in what are called NAIC investment guidelines. And those investment guidelines are actually more conservative than the guidelines that we have to have in some of our main funds. And so it's very clear that you need investment and banking experience in order to do this job well. And that's the key difference between my opponent. I think my opponent's a lovely person. I have a privilege of traveling the state with her and seeing her at a lot of different events. But this is about experience. And the truth is, if here or I went into any job, this is a job interview, if we went into any job and we asked to get a job at any type of financial or banking firm, I think it's clear that she just doesn't have the finance or investment experience to do that job.
I would just like to interrupt a little bit. I appreciate you saying that I'm nice, but I'm qualified and competent, and I have the integrity to do this job. At the end of the day, the treasurer's job is, yes, it's a chief investment and banking officer. You oversee more than $32 billion in assets under management. You also manage a $64 billion cash flow. My experience is overseeing teams. It's overseeing resources in my capacity at the State Board of Education. We do oversee our local school budgets. When they're out of compliance, we put them in corrective action plans. The ESA program, I do have oversight and I do have investment experience. It's different than my opponent's experience, but it is very relevant to the responsibilities of the treasurer.
Please,
I'd like to
let him respond,
sure,
please.
Of course. I'd like to respond to that. I mean, I think working in Washington, D.C. For John Boehner and for Paul Ryan, who are essentially swamp creatures.
I would like to interrupt that.
This is important because the people of Arizona need to know this. Is not qualification to manage $32 billion. We're talking about $32 billion. And the small business that she has, we don't really even know what it does. I mean, I own an insurance organization. It's clear what we do. The job, she's not qualified, frankly, and I mean this with all due respect, to be the bookkeeper of a pizza parlor. More or less manage $32 billion. That's a lot of money.
That's really interesting. I would just like to say, yes, I worked for members of Congress, but I worked for members of Congress well before you got involved yourself. And you serve your constituents. That is the role and responsibility. At the end of the day, It is about stewardship. It's about service, our local communities. The role of the treasurer, yes, it's serving as your chief banking and investment officer, but you're also in service to our local communities. It is not telling what they do or don't do, but it's in service to. It's saying, yes, come join us in investment with the local government investment pools, but let's also equip you with the skills that you need to make strong decisions at the local level.
I'd like to make a
Go ahead.
rebuttal to that. I mean, how are you going to do that if you don't know anything about investing money? You've been asked this on the trail multiple times, and you've said, I have no banking or investment experience. That's on video multiple times. How are you going to be able to be a steward of $32 billion of our state's money when, ma'am, you have no experience? I think that's a huge, huge problem. And I think we have to elect someone who can manage that money and knows what they're doing. We're not trying to hire a glorified HR manager to manage unelected bureaucrats. We're electing the chief banking and investment officer of our state.
Respond, please.
As interesting comments, and I appreciate the indirect digs. As our treasurer, it's one of the top 5 roles in our state and is defined in our Constitution. Yes, it is the Chief Banking and Investment Officer. Yes, it oversees contracts. Yes, it is an advocate for education freedom. Yes, it's in service to our local communities. Yes, it is oversight of the Public Land Endowment Trust Fund. At the end of the day, you are making investments so that our state can pay its bills. We cannot make risky bets. We cannot make big bets. We cannot sell our portfolio to the highest bidder with the goal of, perhaps we'll get higher yield.
I want to ask you a question. You mentioned a policy earlier and referred to a policy and promoting policy and these sorts of things. Is that a duty, is that a responsibility of the state treasurer?
At the end of the day, you are following state statute and what is defined also in the Constitution. It is how we invest our state dollars. My opponent has talked at great length of, we should invest like Texas or we should invest like Florida. They're very different states. Arizona, I'm interviewing to be the treasurer for the state of Arizona, to be its next treasurer. It is a policy job. It is an investment job. It is a stewardship job. It's also an education opportunity to help educate our communities about financial literacy, as well as the roles that the Treasurer's Office can play in support to our local communities, counties, and other taxing authorities.
Is it an advocacy job?
Well, I mean, it's a lot of different things. But the primary job of the state treasurer is to manage and protect our state's $32 billion in assets under management. And if you elect someone that has no finance background or no finance experience to manage $32 billion, look, the economy is not always just like this. There's ups and downs in the market. And you need to elect someone that's going to be able to respond to those to make sure we don't lose principle.
So it's a little bit of an advocacy job? Will you be out there in a bully pulpit?
I'm going to be, two things. There's 2 things I'm going to do. Number one, I'm absolutely going to promote financial literacy. That's something that I look very much forward to doing. I love, doing whatever I can to help people become better managing money personally. But I think that the bully pulpit is another key thing. We have had a terrible Democrat governor for the last 4 years. There's $300 million we think missing that we can't find. We need someone that's going to have the gall to stand up to far left Democrats. Hopefully Katie Hobbs is out of here January 1st of 2027. I know I'm going to do everything I can to get that done. But we need someone who's going to be able to stand up to the radical left and bad financial policy and be an advocate for good financial policy in the state. And no one's going to trust someone that has no experience to do that.
But I would like to say what's really interesting. My opponent said stand up to bad policy. Treasurer Yee was trying to advance a bill authored by Representative Livingston, House Bill 2344, and it would keep the finances in-house make sure that the local government investment pool are managed in-house. It's currently the policy, it's not in statute, and only in the condition by which they are unable to do the job, then you can go and seek outside counsel or have private industry bankers and private equity and manage that portfolio. Something that's really important to me is I believe in the free enterprise. I do not believe that we need to bring ideology into the way we invest our state dollars. We need to make sure that woke, DEI, ESG, et cetera, are not part of that portfolio, including BDS. And the only way we can do that is making sure that we keep those investments in-house and not shop it out to the highest bidder.
It's interesting you brought that up, that the idea of woke and DEI and these sorts of investments with firms, with entities that might not agree with some of the political ideology that you espouse. If it's good for the state, will you still say no to those investments?
Listen, here's what I'm going to be the state, if I'm elected, I'm going to be the state's chief banking and investment officer. I'm going to invest in companies that are focused on making money and providing a service. I'm not going to be investing in companies that engage in ideology. And I want to say something that's a little alarming. My opponent sits on the State Board of Education. There was a vote that came up in October to ban DEI from public school instruction. And I'm not finished yet, ma'am. And I think that my opponent was not there, and the vote has now been delayed for 4 or 5, 6. I don't even know the number of months, and we still have DEI instructed in our classroom.
I really appreciate his bringing that up. I was unable to attend our state board meeting in October, and the vote was tabled. It was to root out DEI from
You could have brought it up again.
teacher.
You could have brought it up again.
We actually voted on it, Elijah.
When did you do that?
In December.
Well,
in
because
December.
the superintendent of public instruction has told me that's not true.
Well,
that
he's going to have to need to go back. It's called 12. It happened the first week of December.
I can tell you that if I was in your...
Hold on,
they put together it's really interesting. They put together a group. As with any policy, when we are trying to root out, there is a governance committee that has come together of educators and others to root out the language so that we can be in compliance with the federal order that was put in forth
I'd like
by
to respond to that because that's very
important. So we did vote on it.
No, you
yes,
you voted to establish a committee.
I would
going to
just
look at
say,
it. If it was me, I would have voted to ban it immediately.
I'm sorry, but
I'm
that
against
is,
DEI.
again,
and
you don't understand how government works.
Well,
the way
that's not
government
true,
works
Catherine.
when it comes to policy, if you're a rule-making organization, that is the role of the State Board of Education. The policies that we put forward is we make recommendations. You have a working group. It's the way it has to go. A working group, and then you come to a conclusion and you root out, in particular,
But
the
policy
language.
that's so bad, you do what Donald Trump does.
But again,
stop it. And that's
hold
what we
on,
need to do.
please.
We need to
I'm sorry,
stop
hold on,
DEI
folks,
in the public school system.
folks.
I'm so
And you
sorry.
failed to do that.
Please, we're talking about DEI, and this is a conversation with two people who want to be the state treasurer.
Thank you, Ted.
What does DEI have to do with an administrative job like being the state treasurer?
Well, there's a lot of companies that have DEI and ESG policies, and they invest part of their profits in these DEI and ESG policies, and I want to divest from those companies. I'll give the current treasurer some credit. She did a good job of divesting from Unilever.
Would you divest from these companies if investing in these companies was good for the state portfolio?
I think there's been some question about ESG mandates. I think some have, earlier, maybe 5 years ago, it was the policy of the day. I would say that at the end of the day, many equities, so many publicly traded companies have backed away because at the end of the day, it wasn't best for the bottom line. It was not best for their investors. So as someone who believes in the free enterprise, we needed to identify those investments, whether they're bonds, treasuries, equities, are about 40% of our portfolio is in equities. We need to make sure that we are investing aligned with Arizona values. At the end of the day, it's about Arizona values to get a return, protecting the principal, making sure that we have liquidity because we have to be able to pay our bills, and then it's about yield.
I want to talk about investments, and I want to talk about investing in crypto. The governor has vetoed a bill, a couple of bills actually, involving crypto, basically saying there's too much volatility in the crypto market for the state to be investing or being involved in that kind of a thing. Does she have a point?
Well, the governor vetoed a bill that enables the treasurer the ability to make those investments.
Right.
And I think that, I'm not in favor of investing a large amount of our state's money in crypto. I think it's too volatile, but I think the option should be available as that crypto investment becomes more stabilized and more ingrained in our financial system.
What do you think?
I have a little bit of concern, particularly right now. I think it's quote new. Congress is in the midst of debating a piece of legislation, the Clarity Act, to see if we can create some greater clarity on crypto investments. they're almost double where they were today in September. And that gives me great concern because part of the responsibility of the treasurer is safety, liquidity, then yield. At the end of the day, we have to protect the principal. Under Treasurer Yee, she has doubled our state assets under management to more than $32 billion. We've doubled the PLETF, the Permanent Land Endowment Trust Fund, which helps fund education. If we make big bets and risky decisions, that's going to make sure that we can't pay our educators.
Okay.
It's going to mean that we can't pay our public safety officers and first responders, and we can't meet our local community needs.
Please.
Look, I want to say something because there's two things on this. Number one, she constantly brings up the fact that doubling the assets under management is a good thing. There's something called the rule of 7 and 2 in investments, and if she had the experience, she would understand this. And that is if you put money into just a normal investment account, it's going to double every 7 years, 7 and 2. And we have in the 7.5 years that our current treasurer has been in office, we've gained 450,000 people. We've had a 145% increase in the value of our property. We sold $1.9 billion of land into the Permanent Land Endowment Trust Fund, so the principal went up in the time that she's been in office. And we had the Wayfair decision, which allows cities and counties and towns to impose sales tax on interstate transactions. All of those things combined, if you take our portfolio to somebody that actually understands investments, they're going to say we should have about $3 to $5 billion more than we actually do. And if you quantify that over 25 years, that's $25 billion. And I'm not saying we should take risky bets. The Democrat wants to change our investment strategy to something that's risky. I want to go to the office every day, do my job, and apply my experience to get a better return for the taxpayers of Arizona.
Cautious versus aggressive. We don't take risky out of it here. Cautious or aggressive?
I want to be cautious.
Cautious or aggressive?
It's the taxpayer dollars. At the end of the day, the treasurer is investing on behalf of Arizona taxpayers. Making big bets again is going to put us at risk. Elijah's heard me talk about this, but Orange County in 1994 went all in to chase the increased return, and the consequence is it went bankrupt. It took 22 years and $1 billion to get out of bankruptcy.
Do you know why it went bankrupt, Catherine?
I do. It was around.
What's the actual reason? What's the reason?
They went all in on repurchase loans.
Derivatives, actually. So they went all in on derivatives, and that is prohibited under our investment strategy.
I know, but I think it's an example. If we go all in under our current statute, we are prohibited to be doing exclusively in one specific investment area.
I've advocated for smart investing, and I'm advocating for taking my experience to increase return without putting the principal risk. I'm not in favor of changing the investment strategy, but I can tell you this. The biggest bet that Arizona can make is electing somebody that is totally unqualified to do the job to the position to manage $32 billion. I can't think of any bigger risk,
What do you think of Prop 123? And what do you think the extension of Prop 123? What do you think the percentage should be of the distribution? We're seeing everything from 6.9% to 8.9%, maybe 10% over the next 20 years. First of all, is it a wise idea to take that money out of that trust?
Well, no, I want to protect the principal. That's the number one thing. And I think the proposals that have been put forth by Katie Hobbs and the Democrats, 8, 9, 10%, are absolutely ridiculous. If you look at the PLETF returns, the actual annualized return, I think, is about 8, 9%. We're distributing 6.9. That math jives. However, if you go back to 2022, we had a negative return in the PLETF. It lost 7%. And so, here's what we need to do. We need to have a treasurer who can lead on this issue and do a pro forma to show a projection that says, okay, if we sell X amount of land and pay Y amount of yield, and let's say we have a market volatility situation that we can't predict in the future, like we have another 2008 or whatever, we are protecting the principal. So that's what I want to do.
But the idea, the concept, Prop 123, you're okay with that? You think the voters should go ahead? Okay, are you okay with that?
The Prop 123, and I should note my opponent did not know what Prop 123, he criticizes me, but when he got into the race in April of 2025, he didn't know what it was. But
That's
I would say Prop
That's
123 is the primary responsibility of the PLETF is to help fund public education. And I think that's really, really important. It was something that was set at the founding of our state in 1910. Prior to our founding of our state, the federal government gave us over $10 million acres of land. We've only sold 1 million of acres of land. I agree with my opponent that the State Land Trust has not done, I would say, a very good job of stewarding those resources. There are other states like Arizona that have done a better job of selling those lands. Again, that requires leadership at the top. It requires a new governor. But when it comes down to the actual percentage, we do have to protect the principle. And when you think about the Public Land Endowment Trust Fund, it is an endowment. It's to last, invest in today, but also look into perpetuity.
Okay,
the endowment, on average, an endowment distributes about 5%. Without the Prop 123, we're now back down to 2.4%.
Is this,
And
we
so,
had a state treasurer who thought this was a rotten idea,
Dean
taking
Martin,
money.
yes.
Well, we had Jeff DeWitt, who
And
was
Jeff DeWitt,
totally
too.
against Prop 123, saying this is not a good stewardship of public funds. Did he have a point?
I think, well, Elijah had a good point about, there's the up and the down. The PLETF has not always had a high return. It's doing incredibly well right now, over, I believe, 9.8%. But we have to plan for the future. And so I think in some ways, I'm grateful that the taxpayers had an opportunity to vote on Prop 123 in 2016. It gives us an opportunity to reevaluate. Is that the best percentage to support our public education? Because if not, our legislatures had to backfill those dollars. It's about $300 million.
Is that money there to manage, or is that money there to distribute? What should be the emphasis there?
It's a combination of both. I mean,
give me an emphasis.
I think the emphasis is that we need to make sure we're protecting the principle. My number one thing is principle preservation. I want to make sure that we have the principle in the trust fund, and that's why it's important that we do a pro forma, and it's important that we elect somebody that has experience that can solve this problem. We haven't solved this problem for 8 years. It's not like we didn't know this was going to come up for renewal. We knew this was going to happen, and nothing has happened, and that's why I want to take a step and actually lead on this issue, work with our legislature in 2027, if I'm given the honor of being the treasurer, and fix this problem once and for all.
But again, I do appreciate giving the voters an opportunity to vote on this. It's been 10 years. I appreciate that. At the end of the day, we need to make the PLETF was established for to distribute funds to 13 different entities. About 90% goes to public education. We need to be a good steward on behalf of Arizona taxpayers so we can invest in our education today, but also plan for the future. That's hence why it's an endowment. It's investing in today, but also tomorrow. I think working.
I want to let him have a chance to speak.
Yeah, I want to say this. I mean, one thing I appreciate about my opponent continually saying the word steward. Stewardship. We need to be a good steward of our taxpayer dollars. And I 100% agree with that. But for me, you also have to be an investment officer, meaning you are the one, you're elected by the taxpayers to make the decisions on ultimately where our investments go. And I go back and I digress. How can you be a good steward when you have no experience whatsoever in managing investments or finance?
Please.
I have my own personal finances, yes, and I have my own personal investments. I would like to say
$32 billion is a lot different.
But similar to my opponent, he also is not investing $32 billion.
I'm investing over $100 million. That's a lot of money.
At the end of the day, the role of the treasurer is, yes, it's serving as the chief banking and investment officer. It's chairing the state investment board. It's ensuring that we have an incredible team of investors as well as accountants that are making sure that they are doing what is in the best interest of Arizona. My life in public service, my life as a small business owner, I believe has equipped me. And it's because of my experience, my temperament, the wisdom that I bring to this role that I have the endorsement of Kimberly Yee and 3 other former treasurers, as well as county treasurers representing 77% of our state.
Real quick, the current treasurer did not endorse you. Are you concerned about that?
No, I mean, I think, look, endorsements, unfortunately, sometimes are made off of personal relationships. And I have over 20 endorsements. I've been endorsed by the Free Enterprise Club. I've been endorsed by Turning Point. I've been endorsed by ASRA. I've been endorsed by the President of the State Senate, leadership in the State House, as well as multiple state legislators and county treasurers. So I have a lot of good endorsements, but the reason I don't tout my endorsements is I'm running on my own resume. And I think my opponent has relied very heavily
Okay.
on endorsements
We-
to cover up the lack thereof.
We've
her
got to stop
experience.
right there. Holy smokes, we got to stop right there. Candidates, thank you very much. We have a lot of time for now. 1 minute closing statements, and going in alphabetical order, we start with Catherine Haley.
Thank you, Ted. And more importantly, thank you to the viewers that have joined us tonight. Arizona is my heart. And it is important to you because that is why you're joining us today. Yes, this is a job interview, and I commit as a lifelong conservative to be an advocate on behalf of Arizonans, to be a wise steward, to ensure limited and efficient government, to not do audits just once in a lifetime, but every single day bring efficiency to the office so that we are advancing and protecting your dollars. Why? Because if we are a wise steward and we are advancing liberal and efficient government, then our taxes stay low and we are able to give you the freedom to invest your dollars as you so choose. The role of the treasurer is to ensure not only invest on behalf of our local communities, but also to make sure that we make good on our bills, helping to pay our ensure that we are making good on our local communities. Our schools are funded, our teachers are supported, our public safety is with us. Thank you so much, and I hope I earned your vote.
All right, thank you very much. And now the closing statement from Elijah Norton.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. I think this job is about experience and qualifications. Not only do I own a multi-million-dollar global insurance company and have large investment experience, I also served as the Arizona Republican Party treasurer and managed over $20 million of funds. And we had a really good election year because we restored honesty and transparency and trust in the state party. For me, I think we need to do a DOGE audit of our state education system and our overall budget. There's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. We need to expand the utilization of the local government investment pool so cities, counties, and towns are investing with the state of Arizona Treasurer, if they so choose, to maximize the returns in a safe way. And most importantly, this job is about experience. I reiterate that again. If you were to fly into an airplane, and a $32 billion airplane, would you want someone flying you halfway across the world that's never even set foot in a cockpit, or someone that's a veteran person that understands investments at a high level? Thank you so much, and I hope I can earn your vote.
All right. Thank you, candidates. Thanks again to our
Thank you.
candidates, and thank you for watching tonight's discussion. You can take a seat there. We're not quite done yet. Our next Candidates in Conversation is next Tuesday as we focus on the Democratic primary for Arizona's 4th Congressional District. That's at 5 p.m. and again at 10 p.m. right here on Arizona Horizon. And a reminder, all episodes of Candidates in Conversation are live streamed on YouTube at AZPBS Now and can be viewed as well at azpbs.org. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thanks so much for joining us. You have a great evening.